Where do you want to start? Let's start right here with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jack, they've done actually. I've said on the top of the show, I think Sheldon's done a nice job of protecting a trend that he's working his way back into a solid feel. And are Leaf fans comfortable enough to say they feel as good as they did when they've watched him in the first 35 games of the regular season? No. But going through Tampa Bay, going through Florida, and now Washington, there's no sense that there's any panic either, which is a good thing.
No, and I think that you're spot on about Sheldon Keefe giving Campbell starts when he should. You don't need to overwork somebody this close to playoffs, especially when they're coming off an injury like Campbell has been. And you can look at raw numbers for what Campbell's done since coming back from his injury, and it's pretty easy to say, well, geez, he's allowed 3 goals and hardly any 1 goals or zeros against games. And to me, you have to kind of pass the eye test with Campbell to think that, hey, okay, he's spent, to me at least what I watch, more time in his crease. He looks way more confident in what he's doing in terms of his depth and post integrations. And he doesn't seem to have that same kind of questioning nature to what he was doing. He just looked like he was in between saves at times when he wasn't performing, and that's indicative of somebody who's lost your confidence. So I like what Keefe's been doing. I know it wasn't ideal with Sjogren going, and poor guy allowed 8 goals against, and he's on the hook for all of those in one game. But if you're the head coach, you got to leave Sjogren in. You're not bringing Campbell in midway through that game. That was the right call. So very much on board with what he's done so far.
Mike, if you're in Jack Campbell's position now, the Leafs have 2 games left. They get Detroit on Tuesday, Boston on Friday. Neither game likely to matter all that much. How much would you want to play? Would you want to play 1, 0, both? What are your thoughts on rest versus rust for goaltenders?
Yeah, I'd want every minute. That's just how I'm wired, though.
Yeah.
I think part of that's because I always wanted the net, not knowing if I'd get to stay in it or not with the nature of my career. It is Campbell's net. Okay, there's no question about that to me whatsoever. So I think the bigger thing is, hey, is he going to get both the games? Is he just going to grab one of them? With them being so spaced apart, I would play both games here. That's what I think would be ideal, especially knowing he has some rest. He didn't go yesterday against Washington. Sjogren grabs that game. So, play tomorrow against Detroit, get that under your belt, and then you got a couple days until Boston, who I would want to play against a good team leading into playoffs. I'd want to feel good about myself and what I've done on the ice and what mentally I felt against a team like Boston that can bring it. But it's also not Florida. So I think that matters. I'd want to go for both the games if I was him.
There's someone on our show whose name isn't on the title of our show, who thinks that he shouldn't play any games. Sammy. Okay. And I'm wondering, Mike, in terms of your partner on any team or just goaltenders in general, would the majority of them want to play, or would there be a part of somebody that says, nah, just I don't want to play, I'll just get ready for game 1? Does it say something about somebody if they don't want to play the next 2 games to close out a season?
Well, everybody's different, but guys, if you're in the locker room and your goalie doesn't want to play, what does that say?
Right.
And everybody talks. If you're out to dinner with the boys a couple nights before and you're like, I really just don't want to play that last game. I don't know, man. Where's your competitive battle? Where's your fire for your teammates? Where's your desire to go out and make a difference and win? And that's what it always felt like to me. My job was to play. If I had a chance to play, I was going in. I was never turning that down. And you know what? These are discussions you do have to have with your coaching staff, because especially in the NHL, there's underlying things that we may not know about. For all we know, maybe there's a little bit of a nagging injury with somebody. And this isn't just goaltenders. This is why people get sat down and why they don't play, with a game or 2 left on occasion. But barring any type of injury, you want to know that your goalie wants to be in there for the guys. And I think that sends a message that you're going to roll out the best lineup. We're going to go in with some momentum. We're going to try to win this last game. And like I say, especially facing Boston, who's a team that, Toronto's had plenty of documented problems with them in the past and could potentially face them again in playoffs. You got to play that game.
For sure. There's tons of interesting goaltending situations around the league, and we're going to ask you about a few more. But before I forget, I wanted to ask you about the Leafs just signed this kid, Dryden McKay, not asking you to know about him, but a college free agent, just won the Hobie. He's 5'11". You know, I saw him listed one place as 6 feet. What are your thoughts on size? Like, almost everyone's 6'2" plus in the NHL now. It's just super uncommon to be able to goaltend to that size, isn't it?
It is. 6'2" has become the new glass ceiling when it comes to goaltending.
Yeah.
And for reference point, I was drafted in 2002, and I was a big goalie who could handle the puck. And I'm 6'2". Okay. That was, at this point now, 20 years ago, which, wow, I can't believe how gray I've become since then. But that's the difference now. Like, a big goaltender is 6'4" or above. And, you know, a 6-foot goalie isn't somebody that you would look at and think, boy, we're gonna tie our wagon to this guy. He's going to lead us to the promised land. Like, it just doesn't happen. You know, we still have people out there that are changing the rules and the dynamics on that. UC Saros is incredible. He's not 6 foot, but he's really the exception to the rule. He lies outside the big bell curve when you look at statistical references. I mean, he's way out there. But what I like about this move, it's a 2-year AHL deal for the Marlies, ostensibly, but really for the Leafs. It gives McKay some time to blend into the pro scenery. I'd imagine that he would start in Newfoundland with the Growlers, ECHL, get his feet wet, understand what it's like. But really, it's a prove-it contract. It is his size. It is his age. And it's also that he's been really well insulated at Minnesota State. So to me, I think it's a no-lose situation for Toronto. They got more money than Davy Crockett. They can give out American League contracts and see where it goes. But it's going to be tough for McKay just based on size alone and his age.
This is just a little bit of a thinking outside the box, and I may be full of crap on this, but you would probably have a better beat on it than anybody. Is there a sense that the Leafs would even contemplate like the timing of this and what kind of message it could send a goalie that you're still maybe thinking about re-signing, but you're not sure if you're going to want him back or you can even afford him if he goes on a run? Like, what would a signing of a Hobie Baker Award guy do to Jack Campbell a week before game one?
I'd hope nothing. If it does something to him, I don't think you really want Jack Campbell to be your goalie. You know,
Fair point.
If you're playing to the best of your ability, why are you worried about a Hobie Baker winner? More or less, why are you worried about a kid coming out of college? I understand there's some clout there, and I understand that it's going to come with expectations. But hey, he's the best goalie in college hockey, even though he didn't win the best goalie in college hockey award, which is kind of weird. I think for Campbell, it's really you're just worrying about yourself, and you realize that, man, teams sign goalies all the time. They sign draft picks, they sign free agents, and all of them in some capacity has some juice behind them. It's your job to stay better than those goalies. It's your job to stay ahead of them. It's your job to be a role model and to be a mentor to those goalies in some ways. You know, look at Pekka Rinne, man. Like, Pekka Rinne got the most out of this game he could, and at the very end, he transitioned that last year or year and a half to really mentoring UC Saros. And Nashville did it the right way. And I don't think that was easy for Rinne because he's competitive, and he's way later in his career than Campbell. But it really pays off to have a good relationship there. So I don't think it's going to phase Campbell a bit. But if anything, it's just a reminder that you're going to have more goalies coming in, always trying to take your spot.
But we also are dealing with a guy that can overthink at times to the point where he's really critical of himself. I mean, we're not dealing with your typical mindset goaltender here. That's all.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that one. But I think this is low level enough. I mean, if they went out and, you know, if they could sign goaltenders right now and they went and grabbed, you know, the big free agent off the market, or if like Tim Thomas came out of retirement and decided to play for the Leafs, then I'd probably be a little bit nervous. But right now I don't see those happening.
So back to the